One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room. This is your daily drop for the 14th of May, brought to you by Modern Athlete Strength Systems. If you guys go over to onesready.com, top right-hand side where it says prep, hit the drop down and hit partner discount. Scroll on down to where you see Modern Athlete Strength System or MASS, and there are two images, a bunch of links in there, but there are two images with two different plans on it. If you click either one of those plans, that'll take you to where you need to go to purchase that plan, and then use the promo code ONESREADY to get yourself a discount. They have a third option too, which is called the 90-Day Unchained, and that is a more intense 90-day dietitian, strength and conditioning coaching, life coaching, finance, all that kind of stuff. And it's like goes through an interview process to ensure that you are a right fit and that kind of stuff. But that is no promo code for that. You will get a discount if you say, hey, One's Ready. I heard it from those guys. They sent us over here, and that'll get you a discount on that end of it. So go over there, check that out. Now, if you're new here, this is news that is curated from public affairs at the Department of the Air Force and then sent out. And then I'll give you some insider baseball if I have it. All right, first, joint news. DoD budget reallocation for border mission. The DoD is redirecting over $1.1 billion, including $142 million from Air Force facilities repair, $1.7 million from unemployment benefits, and $1 billion from Army facilities accounts. All right, that math doesn't math. If they're redirecting 1.1 billion. But anyway, so 1 billion from Army facilities accounts to fund U.S.-Mexico border operations. The reprogramming submitted to Congress on May 8th aligns with Republican guidance and includes smaller contributions from Navy, Marine, and Space Force. So border security is absolutely paramount because we're getting infiltrated and invaded by other entities and countries and people. So like fully back this. Just know that we've spent the last 20 years ignoring infrastructure, ignoring technical refreshes and buildings and that kind of stuff. Hence, everything you see about black mold in some of the housing at bases, some of the facilities and structures like are dilapidated and just not great. New buildings are few and far between, or military construction or MILCON is few and far between. So and now we're going to cut the repair from Air Force facilities and Army facilities. I just got back from a facility meeting where there's no money to go around for any repairs on buildings or anything like that. Like we're out in Nellis, out in Las Vegas. So it's super hot out here. And there's places that don't have the funds to have their air conditioning fixed. So this is a real problem, right? And I don't know. I'm all about cutting to the bone and figuring this thing out. And Congress wanting to spend more money and all that kind of stuff. I'm not on board with that. Don't raise our taxes. You don't deserve it. You're not representing us, even though you say you're representatives. You're not. We do not want our taxes raised. No, I'm going on a totally different rant. Okay, getting back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. All right, next, AI-powered threat prediction. The National Geospatial Intelligence Agency's AI tool, MAVEN, has evolved from target identification to predicting threats by analyzing imagery, reducing latency by 80%. NGA Director Vice Admiral Frank Whitworth noted surging demand for MAVEN, which now requires AI models capable of decision-making based on detected patterns. Okay, forgive me, but I tend to get this flashback to, I don't know if it was Captain America, Winter Soldier, or if it was one of the Avengers movies. But if you remember, they had that flying fortress essentially that was up there, and it was controlled by AI, and then AI was then target discrimination of people on the ground using facial recognition and just started lighting people up, right, and destroying buildings, that kind of stuff. there has to be a human in the loop at this point. Now, I understand that predicting threats, but as long as they are not actioning them, like that's the key. And that's pretty cool that like that amount of efficiency reduces latency time by 80%. Like that's pretty incredible. But again, we have got to have a human in the loop with that, making the final decisions on stuff. All right. Army Firepower and Indo-Pacific Indo-PACOM Commander Admiral Samuel Paparo emphasized the U.S. Army Pacific's firepower and logistical expertise as critical for deterring Chinese aggression. He highlighted concerns over the Chinese actions near Taiwan and its growing ties with North Korea and Russia, noting interconnected global supply chain threats. Yeah. I don't know anything about that. I have no idea where to even start with that. Next, U.S. security role in Africa. African nations view China's financial overtures as attempts to gain economic leverage, prompting them to prefer U.S. security partnerships, according to Vice Admiral Jeffrey Anderson. The U.S. is encouraging African countries to be cautious about Chinese investments, particularly due to concerns over potential use of commercial ports. 100%. That's what this whole Belt and Road initiative was that they were doing. And they were essentially putting they would tell country X, hey, we'll come in, we'll redo all your ports, we'll fund it, that kind of stuff. Like, no big deal. We'll even run it for you. And then they would end up holding that port or that country hostage, essentially, and putting a lien on the port and all the facilities and that kind of stuff. Ended up being a very bad deal for a lot of the countries that said okay to China coming in and doing that. So that was all part of that Belt and Road initiative. And if you're not familiar with it, there are some really good YouTube videos on it. So I recommend checking it out. Short videos on it too, just to explain to what it is and what it was doing. All right, Air Force news. New Air Force Secretary confirmed. Troy Mink was confirmed as the Air Force Secretary with a focus on advocating the space, Black Force, and countering China's. That's written really weird. Black Force is something like a name of something. That's weird. I haven't heard of it though. China's growing space threats. His priorities are including overseeing the F-47 Next Generation Air Dominance Program and the Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative. I got to imagine the B-21 and the CCA is in that as well. I can't imagine that he's going to exclude himself from that. Next, F-47 fighter capabilities. The F-47 Next Generation Air Dominance Fighter will boast a combat radius exceeding 1,000 nautical miles and a Stealth plus capability, surpassing the F-35 and the F-22. The Air Force plans to procure at least 185 F-47s with operational deployment expected between 2025 and 2029 alongside collaborative combat aircraft. Why would they say operational deployment expected in 2025? Like, we're almost halfway through the year, and there's no way that thing, I mean, they haven't even test flown it yet. Like, that's not an accurate date at all. I think best case, you're looking at 2028, probably more like 2029 for full operational capability. Air Force AI Center of Excellence. The Air Force is establishing an AI development center in collaboration with Microsoft, MIT, and Stanford to create scalable enterprise-level IT solutions. Outgoing Chief Information Officer Venice Goodwin emphasized strategic investment to ensure efficient use of IT funds across the DoD. AI Center of Excellence. Everything's a center of excellence. Next, Manpower nominee priorities. Retired Colonel Richard Anderson, nominee for the Air Force Manpower and Reserve Affairs, pledged to enhance recruiting, retention, mental health support, and sexual assault prevention. He stressed that non-monetary factors like leadership opportunities and service quality are key to retaining pilots. I don't know, man. We'll see. Like, I do hope you are successful. I 100% support you on that and hope you're successful. I just don't know that I think there's a lot more to it than just leadership opportunities and service quality. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of the QUEEP or admin type stuff as well as pay and stability and that kind of stuff. Like the Air Force tends to think that we got to move people around, which is funny because the Air Force Personnel Center is broke when it comes to moving people around, and they usually run out of money not even halfway through the year. Yet we feel the need to continue to move people around and spend money and uproot families. So, yeah. E-7A program under review. The DoD officials are considering removing the E-7A Wedgetail from the FY27 budget, despite its superior airborne early warning and control capabilities compared to the E-3. Chief of Staff David Alvin underscored the E-7's critical role in sensing, decision-making, and action with its first U.S. flight plan for 2025. Do not cut the E-7A Wedgetail out of the FY26 budget. One of the biggest hurdles in the largest strategic and operational problem that we have right now is command and control in the kind of 5th gen fight, right? And I'm not saying the E-7 is 5th gen, but what I am saying is that command and control is a significant risk, and it is a critical piece of making sure that we are successful in the Pacific or wherever we are going. And we need those things. They are not being produced fast enough. Like, please do not cut that. All right, next, childcare crisis at Holloman Air Force Base. Over 50 families at the Holloman Air Force Base face childcare disenrollment due to staffing shortages exacerbated by the DoD hiring freeze and personnel relocations. The abrupt 2-week notice has left families struggling with similar issues reported on other bases like Hill, Eglin, Peterson, and name any other base because that's large, like Nellis, because it is definitely happening here as well. This hiring freeze, like I said, I support it. I voted for it. I think it's needed. Not necessarily the hiring freeze itself. Like I actually am not a big fan of the hiring freeze. I'm okay with cutting all the fat though, because there was a lot of fat that needed to be trimmed, and there still is. But like there are some really good people and very capable people that are wanting to work for the DoD, and we need to lift that hiring freeze to allow us to do it. All right, Space Force news. Concerns over SpaceX launch increase. The Airline Pilots Association and environmental groups oppose SpaceX's plan for 120 annual Falcon launches at Cape Canaveral, citing risks from debris and ecosystem impacts. Despite a draft assessment finding no significant environmental harm, Space Force anticipates over 100 launches in 2025. I want to revisit this. Airline Pilots Association. Didn't even know that was a thing. And why do you guys care? You have a NOTAM over that area. Like you don't get to fly over it anyway. So what's your issue? All right, next. Of interest, F-35 operational concerns. An F-35's close call with Houthi rebels in Yemen raised questions about its deployment against non-state actors given its design for high-threat environments. Analysts debate whether such incidents reflect operational misuse rather than deficiencies in the F-35's advanced capabilities. You could also consider that maybe the pilot was doing not in a airspace block that he could have been or should have been. There's a lot of factors that could go into this. Now, I do understand the argument about like, hey man, this is not a high-end fight. Why do we need F-35s over there? Well, the F-35 pilots and the airframes itself do need combat experience. So I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I think you got to understand what an F-35 is and understand the importance of it and how to best utilize it. I think that is a factor that should be considered. All right, next, Estonia tracks Russia's shadow fleet. Estonia is monitoring Russia's shadow fleet of approximately 500 ships causing disruptions in the Baltic Sea, countering hybrid threats below NATO's Article 5 threshold. Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur emphasized Estonia's high defense spending and urged NATO allies to match its commitment. Next, Indian strikes on Pakistani bases. Satellite imagery confirmed damage to Pakistani air bases from India's Operation Sindoor, targeting military infrastructure in response to heightened tensions. Indian Air Marshal A.K. Bharti described the strikes as a precise, measured retaliation hitting multiple bases across Pakistan. Pakistan, you effed around and found out, didn't you? Woo! How's that working out for you guys? PFAS contamination solutions. Researchers are developing technologies to concentrate and eliminate PFAS, forever chemicals, from water, with some methods nearing large-scale deployment. Experts advocate for a combination of approaches, reducing PFAS use to address long-term environmental persistence. Dude, you got to keep our water clean, man. Last thing we need to do is end up like Flint, Michigan. All right. So, they're still dealing with that. What was that? 2013, 2012, 2013 that all that happened? And they still don't have clean water? It's insane. All right. Military rank reduction strategy. Reducing general officer ranks must prioritize warfighting effectiveness and maintain U.S. global influence, warns retired Lieutenant General David Deptula. Downgrading key positions like the U.S. Air Force's in Europe commander could weaken NATO leadership and signal reduced U.S. commitment. We did an episode with Lieutenant General David Deptula. He was awesome. Go check him out. I can't remember what episode it is, but if you search for DEPTULA, it'll come up. And it was a great sit down, or at least on his end, it was great. I was the only one there, so mine is always mediocre. Space Force budget proposal. Christopher Stone argues the Space Force should receive over 25% of the DoD budget for 5 years to develop orbital and cislunar weapon systems to counter China. He advocates transferring all counter space capabilities to the Space Force to strengthen its deterrence role. The Space Force budget is abysmal. 3% of the DoD budget is insane. I know you guys are tired of hearing me say it. Okay, I will not say that I'm not going to say it again, but that's all I'll say for today about it. All right, last one, Pentagon budget growth issues. The DoD's budget growth, driven by unfunded priority lists and earmarks, fuels bureaucracy rather than warfighting readiness. Are you Bob Ivory and Jeremy Portnoy? The F-35's rising $1.58 trillion maintenance cost, $1.58 trillion maintenance costs, and lagging IT investment highlight systematic inefficiencies, though software-focused acquisition reforms offer hope. When we start talking about the IT investment, that is that infrastructure investment that we have neglected. And then, of course, there's no money for, right? So, and that's at all of these bases that have 5th gen and that kind of stuff. So it's a real issue. I'm telling you, it is a real issue. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Really appreciate you guys being here. Take care out there. Later.